In the last video, I took a tour of the amazing city of Valletta and capital of the island Republic of Malta. I looked around what is found in the Marsamxett Harbor, around the Grand Harbor, and within the city walls of Valletta. My name is Michelle Gibson. I am picking up the alignment in Sousse, the capital of Tunisia's Sousse Governorate, one of the 24 governorates of Tunisia, and located 87 miles or 140 kilometers south of the nation's capital of Tunis. Sousse is considered one of the most beautiful cities in Tunisia and is located on the Gulf of Marsamxett. Sousse is a transportation hub. It is a port city where there are 2 lighthouses at opposite ends of the harbor entrance. Just like what we saw in Valletta, Malta, and even at the port of Dover, England, in the English Channel. Sousse is linked by the widest road in the country, the A1 motorway, a 153-mile or 247-kilometer highway that connects Tunis with Sfax, another port city in southern Tunisia, and conceived of as part of an international project called the Trans-Maghreb Highway. The Maghreb is another name for Northwest Africa, a region which we are told was referred to in English and European sources in the 16th through 19th centuries as the Barbary Coast. What we are told about the Maghreb is that during the era of Al-Andalus in Moorish Spain between 711 AD and 1492 AD, the Maghreb's inhabitants, Muslim Berbers or Maghrebi, were known by the Europeans as Moors. And that's about as much as they will give up to us directly about this particular subject. Sousse is also connected by railway to Tunis and has roads and railways leading further into the country and towards the neighboring country of Libya. As we are told about so many other places, the construction of the railway was attributed to the French colonizers and not to the original inhabitants. So I took a look at the history of Tunisia to see what else I could find. At the beginning of the 1800s, Tunisia was described as a quasi-autonomous province of the Ottoman Empire. Its trade increased dramatically with Europe in the 1800s, with the arrival of Western merchants wanting to establish business in the country. Then the Bey of Tunis, from 1855 to 1859, Mohammed, was forced by the British and French to sign the 1857 Fundamental Pact, which increased freedoms for non-Tunisians. Here's another clue we are talking about Moors. Bey is one of the 5 noble titles of the Moors, the other 4 being Dey, El, Al, and Ali. We are told that under the Ottoman Empire, Bey was the title of the governor of a province. Then we are told in 1861, Tunisia enacted the first constitution in what was called the Arab world, but a move toward a modernizing republic was said to have been hampered by a poor economy and political unrest. We are starting to see the use of the word Arab replacing that of Moor. Contained within the 1861 Constitution of Tunisia, we find that it was also the first state to establish Islam as its religion. The world would be in a much better place if we were talking about Moorish Islam, which is about reconnecting with our higher selves and raising our level of consciousness into higher consciousness. I think this marked the beginning of turning formerly Islamic states, i.e. Moorish Islam, into the mechanism for creating a new form of fundamentalist Islam, where it was conceptually altered in order to lead us to what we see now as radical Islam and its destructive role in the world today. Regardless of the new constitution, when the Tunisian government couldn't manage the loans made by foreigners to the government, it declared bankruptcy in 1869. Then Britain and France cooperated between 1871 and 1878 to prevent Italy from acquiring Tunisia as a colony having investment, and subsequently Britain supported the French interest in Tunisia in exchange for dominion over Cyprus. Using the pretext of a Tunisian invasion into Algeria, the French invaded Tunisia with an army of 36,000, which quickly advanced to Tunis, entering by way of places like Sousse on the coast, and subsequently occupying Tunis. Then, the French forced the new bey, Mohammed III as-Sadiq, to make terms in the form of the 1881 Treaty of Bardo, which gave France control of Tunisian governance and making it a de facto French protectorate. The French progressively assumed more of the important administrative positions, and by 1884 they supervised all Tunisian government bureaus dealing with finance, post, education, telegraph, public works, and agriculture. French settlements were encouraged, with the number of French settlers said to have grown from 34,000 in 1906 to 144,000 in 1945, and the French administration weakened the local tribes in rural areas. This was said to depict an urban map of Tunis between 1890 and 1914. Then on March 20th, 1956, Tunisia achieved its independence from France with the establishment of a constitutional monarchy. With the last Bey of Tunis, Muhammad VIII Al-Amin Bey, as the King of Tunisia. This state of affairs didn't last long, as the Prime Minister, Habib Bourguiba, abolished the monarchy in 1957 and proclaimed the Republic of Tunisia the same year, serving as its president for the next 31 years. At the same time the constitutional monarchy of Tunisia was abolished, the Beylik of Tunis was terminated as well, described as a largely autonomous Beylik of the Ottoman Empire. This whole series of events seems to be a template for how the Moorish Empire was taken down in different parts of the world. And after I am done with this series, I'm going to put together a comprehensive video with all of the examples I have found about this subject. If this represents true history in the new historical narrative, I think it is possible that places like Tunisia and others which were not wiped out by a worldwide flood of mud were taken down by the controllers by other means, typical of the events seen in Tunisia. Among other things, it is interesting to note that the Carthaginian Empire was centered in Tunisia, and the powerful ancient city of Carthage was located in the vicinity of Tunis. This reconstruction of how Carthage was said to have looked is typical of depictions of it, and its protected harbor, called a kothon, were said to have been generally found in the Phoenician world. As such, Carthage was said to have been founded by Phoenician settlers from Tyre and Sidon in the modern-day country of Lebanon, and destroyed by Roman forces in 146 BC at the end of the Third Punic War. I find it very interesting that there is a narrow strip of the National Forest of Tunisia between the A1 motorway and the coast of Hammamet Bay, between Sousse and the resort town of Hammamet to the north, given the overall desertified nature of the place. We will see more on the desertification of the region as we move into northern Africa's Sahara Desert. There are many olive tree groves south of where the strip of national forest is located, adjacent to the Gulf of Hammamet, in the vicinity of El Kantaoui port, north of Sousse proper. Olives are Tunisia's most important natural resource, and Sousse is the center of the production and sale of olive oil in Tunisia. Tunisia and the coast of North Africa is the southern boundary of the Mediterranean Sea. If you break down the meaning of Mediterranean Sea, you come up with Middle Earth Sea. Interestingly, The Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, the northern border of which is on the Mediterranean Sea, has been calculated to be the center of the landmass of the Earth. Karl Monk, in The Code, deciphers a shared mathematical code related to the pyramids of Giza in the dimensions of the architecture of sacred sites all over the Earth, one which encodes longitude and latitude of each that cross-reference other sites. He shows that this pyramid code is clearly sophisticated and intentional and perfectly aligned geometrically over long distances. The Great Pyramid was the prime meridian of the Earth until the prime meridian was moved to the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, in 1851. Next on the alignment in Tunisia, we come to Kairouan, the capital of the Kairouan Governorate and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Great Mosque of Kairouan, also known as the Holy Mosque of Uqba, is considered to be one of the most impressive and largest Islamic monuments in North Africa. It is called one of the oldest places of worship in the Islamic world, said to have been established in 670 AD, and the model for all later mosques in the Maghreb. We are told during the Aghlabid dynasty between 800 AD and 909 AD, the ruler of Ifriqiya in today's North Africa established a university in Kairouan as part of the Great Mosque Complex, and that it became a center of education in both Islamic thought and in the secular sciences, and said to be in the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest currently functional university in the world. The Aghlabids were said to have built palaces, fortifications, and fine waterworks, of which only the pools remain. For example, these are called the Aghlabid basins, said to have been built in the 9th century as water storage for the Aghlabid Palace, which was on the site of a present-day cemetery in Kairouan. Jebel Chambi is the next place on the alignment, the highest mountain in the country, standing above the city of Kasserine in western central Tunisia. The summit is covered by a pine forest and is part of Chambi National Park. Interestingly, the Battle of Kasserine Pass took place during the Tunisia campaign of World War II. It was the first major engagement between American and Axis forces in Africa. With the Axis German and Italian forces led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, it was an early defeat for Allied forces. Interesting that there are so many military engagements historically that have taken place along these alignments I have been tracking. The Napoleonic Wars, World War I, World War II, other kinds of wars. It makes me wonder what they were really all about. Like maybe to damage, and in many cases, facilitate the complete destruction of the ancient advanced Moorish civilization and the Earth's energy grid system. The next place we come to on the alignment is El Oued, the capital of Algeria's El Oued province in the Sahara Desert in northeast Algeria. The oasis town of El Oued is watered by an underground river, which allows for date palm cultivation. It is also known as the City of 1,000 Domes, since most of the roofs are domed. In El Oued province itself, we find the Chat Melrir, an endorheic salt lake, meaning a limited drainage basin with no outflow, and the westernmost of a series of depressions from the Gulf of Gabes in the Mediterranean Sea into the Sahara. The Grand Erg Oriental, or Great Eastern Sand Sea, is in the southern part of the province and is a field of sand dunes. Can't help but wonder if there is enduring infrastructure underneath all of that sand. The Grand Erg Oriental used to be associated with the Wadi Igargar, described as a dry and mostly buried river with a sizable number of tributaries. A canal system that flowed north into the Erg from the Hagar Mountains to the south of it. At one time, not only did the Sahara Desert have a fertile savanna-type ecosystem supporting a wide and varied wildlife population, like these life-sized giraffes carved in rock in the Sahara. The region now called the Sahara Desert had great forests, including but not limited to oak, elm, alder, juniper, and pine. As you can see in this picture, we are taught the desertification of this region started happening a long time ago. Maybe, maybe not. There is so much that we have not been told about. The silence about the history of this region of the world in the present day is deafening. This is a good place to bring up the desertification of certain places around the world, like the Sahara Desert. I mean, is all of the desertification around the world the result of natural processes over time? Or did something happen to cause it all of a sudden? Next on the alignment from El Oued, we come to the city of Touggourt, the capital of Algeria's Touggourt province and a former sultanate. The sultanate was abolished by the French colonial authorities in Algeria in 1854. And after about a 50-year period of time, it became an autonomous administrative district in what was called the Southern Territories of Algeria. Touggourt is situated next to an extensive system of oases, which supports palm plantations and other agriculture in a 31-mile or 50-kilometer north-to-south area. Here is a close-up of a place with some kind of agriculture, and where you can see what appears to be what used to be infrastructure in the surrounding desert. The next place on the alignment is Gardaia, the capital of Algeria's Gardaia province. It lies along the west bank of the Wadi Mzab, described as a dry riverbed. I couldn't find a picture of the mostly underground Wadi Agargar back in the Grand Erg Oriental, but it is not hard to find pictures of the Wadi Mzab showing masonry banks. The Wadi Mzab Valley in Gardaia province has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1982. The cities of the Wadi Mzab Valley are 7 in number, with 5 built close together and 2 lie further out. Gardaia is upstream of the other 4 cities that form what is called the Pentapole, and is the commercial capital of the Mzab. With its dominating mosque. Then next downstream comes Malika, with its unique-looking Sheikh Sidi Asa cemetery. Then we come to Beni Isquen, the most traditional city of the Mzab Valley, and in which any visitor must be accompanied by an authorized guide or member of the community. Next we come to Bunora, meaning the luminous, and El Atuf, which means the turn. And all 5 are close together on the snaky S-shaped river bends of the Wadi Mzab. The other two cities that constitute the 7 cities are Bariani, located on National Road 1, one of the country's important highways, and El Guerrara, on the passageway for caravans crossing the Sahara from east to west and north to south, and both are located further out from the other 5. Taking a look at the Pleiades, I don't think it is a stretch to say that the 7 cities of the UNESCO World Heritage Site of the Wadi Imzad Valley form a star map of the Pleiades, also known as the 7 Sisters. Before I leave Algeria and head into Mauritania, there is one more place I would like to bring to your attention. You can easily find this information if you look for it, as it is not hidden from us like so much else, but most people don't know about it. While Regane is not directly on the alignment I am tracking, it is relatively close to it. Regane is the capital of Algeria's Adrar province. France began its nuclear testing program in Regane in 1960 to 1961, before Algeria's independence. They conducted 4 atmospheric nuclear tests which contaminated the Sahara Desert with plutonium, negatively impacting those who live there to this day, not only Regane, but far beyond. Between 1960 and 1966, a total of 17 nuclear tests were conducted in the Regane district of Algeria. It was called Africa's Hiroshima. The last place I'm going to highlight on the alignment in this video is the Eye of the Sahara, which is near Ouadani in central Mauritania. It is visible from space and has been used by NASA astronauts as a visual landmark. The blue eye of the Sahara, also known as the Richat structure, is described as a geological formation in the Sahara Desert that resembles an enormous bullseye. It is highly symmetrical and measures 25 miles or 40 kilometers in diameter. 3 nested rings dip outwards from the center of the structure and are all equidistant from the center. Some have speculated that this configuration matches that of Atlantis as described by Plato. If it is a man-made structure and not natural as many want us to believe, why does it look melted? It resembles Lop Nur, an ancient salt lake in the Takla Maklan Desert in the southeastern portion of the Uyghur Autonomous Region of Xinjiang in China, and the location where the Chinese nuclear weapons test base had 4 nuclear testing zones starting in 1959, with H-bomb detonation in 1967 until 1996, with 45 nuclear tests conducted. In the next video, I will be picking up the alignment in Nouakchott, the capital of Mauritania.